I think it's all intentional. I've worked for every president from Ronald Reagan, who hired me, up and through President Biden. And I will tell you, the border was never more secure than when President Trump was at the helm. And, you've seen the rapes, you've seen the little girls that have been murdered at the hands of these illegal aliens. And it's illegal alien, folks. We can call it whatever we want, illegal migrant. It's illegal alien. It's a legal term of art. It's mentioned in Title 8 of the United States Code. Make no mistake about it. Illegal entry into the United States is a federal crime. It is a misdemeanor under 8 U.S. United States Code 1325. And when you take these people and sit them down at a computer and say, process, don't ask 40 questions, ask 5 questions, ask their name, date of birth, place of birth, mother and father, and kick them out the door. Get them out as quick as you can, release them into the country.
Right. So it shot up from like an average of 400,000, 500,000 a year up to, and those were all mostly turned back. And then
Correct.
2021, it shoots up to over 1 million. And then 2 million, and those are allowed mostly to stay in our country.
That's why you have the increase, is because they're being let into the country. 2019, 36,000 deaths from fentanyl. And so when you stop these illegal border crossings and force the individuals that want to claim asylum to do it the right way, the legal way, the safe way, coming to a port of entry, you reduce sexual assaults, you reduce the robberies, you reduce the regular assaults, you reduce deaths on the border. And why anybody would sign an executive order to stop that is beyond me. Even the managers are under pressure to release terrorists, known terrorists, into the country. I mean, good God, how do these people sleep with themselves at night? The virtual process, and then it's process or face details. You're literally blackmailed into process faster, or we're going to send you back south and you're going to be away from your wife and your children. You're going to miss the birthdays and first days of school and first steps and first crawl and all the things we cherish in life. And these virtual processing, yeah, right? And the virtual processing agents never see or talk to an alien before released into the United States. Never see them. Some good vetting going on there, baby. Do I agree with everything that President Clinton did or President Reagan? No, of course not. Did I agree with everything President Trump did in his first term? Of course not. But I like what he does, and I like what he stands for, and I believe the man is doing it because he loves this nation and for no other reason. And that gets my vote. I tell you, that gets my vote because it is what's best for this country.
Hello and welcome to Take Control of Your Liberty with Scott Tregurtha, where we help critical thinkers by giving you the most true and accurate information we can find, which they should be giving you on mainstream media, but are not. So you can decide for yourself and take control of your liberty, your freedom, and your future. And now, here is Scott Tregurtha.
Hello, everybody. Today's guest is a 36-year Border Patrol veteran who eventually became a whistleblower. Please join us as Mark Hall tells us what really goes on behind the scenes at our borders, the corruption, the politics, and shows actual stats comparing the difference between the border under 4 years of Trump and the border under nearly 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Mark will be here in 1 second. Hi, Mark. Welcome to Take Control of Your Liberty.
Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. I'm glad my friend from the what was it? It was a Republican organization out there in Michigan.
Yeah, it was either the Wayne County Republican Party or I believe it was the Wayne County Republican Party.
Right, it was Wayne County. So, and that was a darn good presentation you had there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And it gave me a lot of information. You showed some good graphs and slides. You have those available today too, right?
I do.
Okay, great. And so when we get to where you and I both think it's appropriate, we can show those. Stats say everything, I think. So why don't you start off by giving us your background as briefly or as much as you want, and then we can go from there.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Michigan. My father was a World War II veteran, U.S. Navy corpsman, where he met my mother, was a registered nurse with the War Department back in the day. And they had met, and my father, after World War II, went to Michigan State College, which is now Michigan State University, and got a forestry management education, and joined the Department of Natural Resources here in Michigan, was a DNR officer up until his retirement. Come from a family of service, obviously the mother being a registered nurse, father a military veteran and a state officer. Had a brother that was a sergeant with the Michigan State Police, another brother that was an Oakland County Sheriff Deputy, and then a third brother that was a paramedic with Detroit Fire Department. So I come from a family of service, and that inspired me, and going to college, get a degree in criminal justice, and started looking for employment in that field back in the mid-'80s, and came across an organization called the U.S. Border Patrol. Didn't know much about it, and looked into it. There was no internet back then, so going to the public library and researching on my own, I thought, what the heck? So I applied in 1984 and was hired October of '84, and went to Yuma, Arizona. Was my first duty station. I was a single young man at the time, and seemed like quite an adventure. Didn't know anybody in the Border Patrol, didn't know anybody that lived in Arizona. So packed up my bags and moved across country, and started my career with U.S. Border Patrol in Yuma, Arizona.
That was down by the southern border then?
Yeah, that's right on the Mexican border along the Colorado River. So we worked into California and the western portion of the Arizona border with Mexico. Big Marine Corps Air Station in Yuma.
Gotcha. So, well, that's been quite a career. You've had 36 years, right?
36 years and 4 months, yes. Starting in Yuma, went to the Border Patrol Academy, completed that. One of my classmates, he's kind of made a little bit of a name for himself, Tom Homan. He was President Trump's acting ICE director, and Tom and I have stayed connected over the past 40 years, and we're both disturbed by what we see, and so we've become involved in trying to educate the American public as to what's really going on the border. But my career, starting in 1984 through 2022, expanded pretty wide variety. Down in Yuma, Arizona, I did the traditional duties of a Border Patrol agent. We call it Line Watch, where you patrol the border looking for illegal aliens, drug smugglers, weapons smugglers, smugglers of everything. Silly as it sounds, we had a big case here in Detroit where we thought it was cocaine smuggling, but it ended up being rubber giraffes. And it was, yeah, you kind of laugh, and it was kind of a letdown for the guys until we realized that these rubber giraffes were being sold in high-end stores, and they were baby teething the kind of toys that you would give an infant that was teething, 6, 8 months old, and they were selling for $50 a piece here in the United States. Well, it turned out they were knockoffs. They were fraudulent, and they were loaded with lead, very high levels of lead. And so here we have agents that seized, 20, 30,000 of these things, and at one point you're kind of like, oh my gosh, we got stinking rubber giraffes. But at the end of the day, who knows how many babies we saved from irreparable brain damage. So, something as simple as a rubber giraffe ended up potentially saving thousands of babies from serious injury. So, even that sometimes can be a win. The job takes you in all directions. I was in Yuma. We had a large stretch of desert. It's now the Senator Barry Goldwater bombing range, and it can be up to 40 miles from the border up to the first major road. And we would have the smugglers would point the aliens unsuspecting, give them a gallon of water and point them north. And that summertime, that desert floor can get 130 degrees, 115, 19, no problem. And a human needs over a gallon of water an hour to survive in that. So we created the Desert Area Rescue Team, where our mission was to go out and save these aliens that were unsuspecting victims of these ruthless cartel members. And so we had a lot of saves. We unfortunately had a lot of losses, but that's part of the reason why we formed the team. And the team now has evolved into what we call BORSTAR, the Border Patrol Search, Trauma, and Rescue Unit, which are highly trained tactical rescue agents, and they deal with whitewater rescues, they deal with mountain rescues, you name it. And so I was in the very front end of that, highway interdiction team working drug smuggling routes along the Mexican border, ATV unit, flew as a helicopter observer, running electronics communications and infrared on a helicopter for a year. I was a vessel commander here in Detroit for about 30 years. So it was assigned to a DEA task force working on cartels here in Detroit, Chicago, and down into Mexico. Did that for 3 years. So worked on the integrated border enforcement team after 9/11, where we worked with our Canadian counterparts to try to forego terrorist acts. A funny thing happened in the late 90s. I had a chief patrol agent here in Detroit sector that was a patriot, and I did a lot of public speaking even back then, and so he afforded me the opportunity to speak to the American public through the media and through Congress. I've testified in Congress on several occasions, talking about the lapses in national security with the border. And it was pretty commonplace. After 9/11. A local reporter, I believe it was September 14th, 2001, just days after the terrorist attack, contacted me and wanted to speak about border integrity and security. And I declined the interview just because I didn't think it was a proper time or place. But she had, the reporter, had told me that she had sought permission and received it from my sector staff, the bosses. So I called up the one assistant chief, and he confirmed, yeah, in fact, he told me, I think his quote was, "Go do that thing you do, and, tell the people." And so I did, and the article came out, and it was pretty much the same thing I'd been saying for the past several years. And the chief and deputy chief, who I later learned, I don't think had the integrity that they should have had. And I think their allegiance lied elsewhere than with the Constitution. And I was called a terrorist sympathizer, providing aid and comfort to the terrorists that killed the 2,977 Americans that day. And they moved to fire me. And I was looking at criminal prosecution for being a whistleblower. And Senator Carl Levin and Chuck Grassley out of Iowa came to my aid. Department of Justice got involved. And there was a pretty in-depth investigation that went on for several months, a lot of interviews, and I just went in and spoke the truth. And ultimately, I was exonerated. I was given whistleblower protection status. And we have to remember, that was under the Bush administration. So, when it comes to doing the right thing and standing up and speaking about our country and the security for our country and national security, I really don't care, what letter follows your name. At the end of the day, I took an oath to the Constitution and not any political party. And so I'm going to stand up what's right for America. And that's why I do these things. I don't ask for any fees. I don't want money for this. That's not what I'm about. I don't want anybody to think that that's what I'm about. I'm about this country and getting the word out there and speaking the truth. And I'm not here for Democrats or Republicans. I'm here for the truth.
Well, good for you. And that's the purpose of this podcast I do, to get the word out. And get us participating and get people participating and saving our Constitution, because we have wandered from it quite a bit. So that was that was you got into a little bit about your whistleblowing activity there, and that was when? What years was that around?
That was right after September 11th, 2001. So the report came out after that, after I confirmed I had the green light, which I don't know if it was a setup or what happened with that, but it carried on until 2022, and ultimately I was called up to the Senate to act as a technical advisor and provide some expert information as far as the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, because at that time, prior to 2003, the Border Patrol fell under the Department of Justice, under the Immigration and Naturalization Service. So President Bush wanted to bring the agencies that had kind of authority and responsibility for border and national security for the homeland under the one department, under the new Department of Homeland Security. So we incorporated those, I think it was 22 agencies came in under the Department of Homeland Security. So that all of my mess started right after 9/11.
So now you've retired. When did you retire?
So I retired February of 2018, and they asked me to come back, and I returned as what they call a rehired annuitant, to where I provided recruiting and public information duties for additional 3 years until under this current administration, I just couldn't take it anymore, couldn't stomach what was going on, so I retired and went into private industry in February of 2022.
Now you still have a lot to do with the border situation, correct? You're working on things with what's the organization you're in with Tom Homan?
Yeah, we're on a nonprofit, Border 911. That's Tom Homan organization. We have Derek Maltz from DEA, Rodney Scott, who used to be chief of the Border Patrol under President Trump. A lot of respect, mad respect for Rodney Scott. Derek was in charge of like their SRT, their Tactical Operations unit with DEA. We have Sarah Carter from Fox News, who spent a lot of time over in Afghanistan. Her husband's a Navy SEAL, Purple Heart recipient. So a lot of very experts and vast knowledge from kind of across the spectrum. Derek is very intimately familiar with the cartels. So that's an organization that we go around the country speaking to groups. Here today, I'm not representing Border 911 because I'm representing Mark Hall and the American public. So under Border 911, we can't get political, and I think at this point in time we need to get political. I think we need to talk about the politicians and what their stances are, and you know, I sometimes watch these hearings that they have up in Congress, be it the House or the Senate, and the Democrats will trot in their border experts, and if it wasn't so dangerous and such a joke, I would be laughing at it. But
right,
you know, the people I know are border experts are ones that put on a green uniform, pin a badge onto their chest, and strap on a pistol. Those are the border experts, not somebody that studied at Harvard and had never been to the border, wouldn't know it. You know, walking down in these canyons at 3 o'clock in the morning with an M4 rifle, not knowing what's around the next corner. Those are the damn border experts.
Exactly, and I'm glad you're just representing yourself, because we need to be political, because it's political. This whole border situation, well, that's what I believe. You've got some good stats on what's been going on down there, with the fentanyl problems, human trafficking, the whole 9 yards, right?
Oh,
and,
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's disgusting, and it's very political. Now, tell me, how much of this do you think is intentional?
I think it's all intentional. You know, I've worked for every president from Ronald Reagan, who hired me, up and through President Biden, and I will tell you, the border was never more secure than when President Trump was at the helm. And it has never been more insecure with President Biden and Kamala Harris at the helm. This is, it's unconscionable what's being done. Speaking to the agents, 36 years, I talk to agents literally every day, multiple agents every day. And this is process faster, and get them out the door into the country. And, you've seen the rapes, you've seen the little girls that have been murdered at the hands of these illegal aliens. And it's illegal alien, folks. We can call it whatever we want, illegal migrant. It's illegal alien. It's a legal term of art. It's mentioned in Title 8 of the United States Code. The Supreme Court has talked about illegal aliens. If we don't like it, we need to change the law. I don't call drug traffickers street pharmacists. They're
Right.
drug traffickers. Illegal aliens are illegal aliens. If we want to change the terminology, let's go to the courts and to the legislature and get it changed. But, I'm not going to be political with this. These are legal terms of art. And I can't charge somebody with robbing a bank and not call them a bank robber.
Exactly. They became criminals the moment they crossed that border improperly, correct?
And make no mistake about it, illegal entry into the United States is a federal crime. It is a misdemeanor under 8 U.S. United States Code 1325. It is illegal to enter the United States other than at a port of entry at a designated time and place. And the people that want to decriminalize this or say it isn't a crime are out to lunch. I mean, they are missing the boat. There is a border state park in down near San Diego on the Mexican border, right on the Pacific Ocean. That is a state park. If I go into that state park on the border, when it's closed, the park rangers can arrest me and charge me with a crime. If I enter Friendship Park on the border in San Luis, Arizona, as City Park on the border, after hours, it is a crime under the city of San Luis, Arizona's ordinance, and I can be arrested by the police and taken to jail as an American citizen. If I go into Big Bend National Park on the border in Texas after hours as a U.S. citizen, I can be arrested by the National Park Rangers and charged with a crime. We don't want to charge people breaking into this country for our national sovereignty with a crime. We want to decriminalize that. That's insanity.
Right, exactly. It's a law. You just quoted the law. And why do you think the Harris and Biden and those who are running them want to do this? Why do they want to decriminalize this and let in as many as possible?
Well, we saw in December over 12,000 a day coming into this country. 12,000 a day.
Right.
Do the math.
Right.
Times that by 365. It's numbers like we have never seen. Why? Why do they want to do it? I have never spoke to them, but my suspicions are, you let these individuals in. We have the motor voter bill, where in many states, when you apply for a driver's license, you can apply to register to vote. It's illegal for state employees to ask citizenship. They hand them a form and they sign the form declaring they're a U.S. citizen. That's it. Now you're a registered voter. You sign a form.
Right.
And you're a registered U.S. citizen. And I will give you another example. We had a situation here when I was a watch commander in Detroit of a local police department. I went to a domestic violence case. And they got there. The woman had been abused by her husband. The police made the arrest. There were visible injuries. Under law, they contacted the Border Patrol, our station. Agents who responded to the scene, because the individual was an illegal alien from Mexico without documents. So as the agents are there and they're getting ready to take custody of the individual, the wife says, oh, by the way, he voted in the last presidential Obama election, Obama's re-election. And she goes, not only once, he voted twice. And she brought out 2 separate voter registration cards and hand them to our agents. Our agents prosecuted, did the complaint, got the authorization from the United States Attorney's Office in Detroit to prosecute this individual for being an illegal alien, voting twice in an election that he wasn't allowed to vote in at all. And the case was accepted, only to find out days later that the Eric Holder Department of Justice declined the prosecution. No prosecution, no voter fraud, plausible deniability.
Oh my God. And this is going on quite a bit.
That's
these
just one
days.
case in Detroit that I know of. So you get these individuals come in, they're flowing into our country. The pressure's on the Border Patrol agents, process, kick them out the door, send them out to our communities, and they come into our communities. What can happen? We're sending them to areas like New York City, Detroit, Chicago, blue cities. But under the Biden administration, we are going to count these individuals in the census. Now you have these individuals being counted in the census. What happens when you gain more population? You get more representatives in the House, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our blue, our red states, where they're not going to, are going to lose those representatives to only be sent over to the already blue states to give more power, more voting, more ability in the blue states in the House. That's one reason. There's a multitude, but getting them to vote. We know they're voting. We know it. Just by one simple case in Detroit, we've proven it. And again, you deny it, you deny the prosecution, then there's no voter fraud. It's disgusting.
It really is. And so one big reason is, and by the way, personally, I don't think it's just Biden and Harris doing this.
It's a whole machine. It's a whole Democratic machine.
It's a whole machine. And in fact, when you're voting for Harris, you're voting for the same machine that was running Biden. It's a machine.
Correct.
It's not.
Correct.
She can't separate herself from him no matter what. It's the same machine. And anybody with eyes and a brain can see that. And I believe, for one thing, the Democrat Party benefits by getting all these people in and turning them into voters. That is true. And then that gives them even more power to push their fascist their agendas, right? And so I do believe that is one aspect of it. And then the bottom line is, though, the whatever you want to call it, the oligarchs, the industrial military complex, whatever you want to call it, they gain more power from this. They want a one world government. And what's the best thing you can do if you want a one world government? Eliminate borders all over the world. And then they control everything. And of course, this is happening in countries all over the world, right? This border problem. The same stuff's going on in the UK, Ireland,
Germany,
and in Europe. Germany, right. It's going on all over. Are you in contact with anybody from any of these other countries?
No. Just my focus right now is on my country, our country, for my children, my grandchildren. That's where my focus is. And what's a great way to destroy a country? Let people that have no dedication, no allegiance, vote in our elections to determine the path that our nation is going to take, politically. Oh my God! I mean, does anybody see that as a problem when you let foreigners vote in your elections to determine the course that your country is going to take? That's how you destroy a country from within. And then you have this game he's playing with, his proclamation. It wasn't an executive order. It's like an executive order, but locking down the border. What a joke that was. We have the Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan program where they're flying them in with sponsors into the country where they can claim their asylum and then get flown into the country if they have a sponsor. That program was temporarily paused because Citizenship and Immigrant Services, we learned that one individual had sponsored almost 1,800 of these persons. Now, that seems a bit high to me. I mean, I could see maybe sponsoring a family of 5, 6, 1,800. But the only problem is that person was dead that sponsored them. There's no vetting going on. So here we have a dead individual that's sponsoring 1,800 aliens to fly into this country, be released and gone off into the ether that we'll never see again. And that person doesn't even exist there in the ground. That's the kind of vetting we're doing. We don't even check to see if the people that are sponsoring them are alive. It's unconscionable. Right.
It is. And anybody who wants to say prove that it's intentional, I mean, I don't know if you have any kind of proof or evidence, but to me, common sense stands for a lot. I mean, let's face it. We had, and you have some statistics you can show us, but under Trump, it was extremely low, illegal immigration. And he had certain orders and executive orders in place, laws, whatever. And when Biden came in, he pulled all that. He eradicated what Trump had in. So common sense would tell you if this was working and somebody comes in and undoes it, he must want it to go the other way, right? I mean, doesn't that make sense?
He rescinded, I forget exactly the number of how many executive orders on day one. The most important one was the 1182 F, the Migrant Protection Protocols, which the Supreme Court ruled was constitutional. It was from the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 that affords the president to stop immigration and during times that he needed. And the Supreme Court ruled that was constitutional. That was the stay in Mexico, the first safe harbor. You know, you come, you can make your application for asylum, but you're going to wait in Mexico until it's adjudicated. And it stopped the immigration. It stopped the abuse. You know, we were seeing these children that were coming across, you know, kids in cages. And, you know, I'd like to know where AOC is today with, you know, the 300,000 missing children under Biden. You know, where's the outrage on her part now? These kids are being brought in and let go with distant family relatives or people claiming to be relatives. And God knows what's happening to these children. You know, under Trump, we saw the children coming kind of recycling, where they were coming in one day and then the next day with a different family because we knew they would get released sooner with family units. And so we stopped that. And that all of that was put off to the side and negated by the Biden administration on day one. The migrant protection protocols were ceased. And you know, and this border bill and needing the border enforcement law is strong. We don't need anything to stop the influx of illegal immigration today because what's there now is good. Does asylum need to be revisited? Are there other aspects? Yes, certainly. But to stop the illegal immigration that are coming in here and the victimization and the fentanyl that's flowing across our border, the drugs, the gang members, you know, that can be done. We can turn that on today. And put it in place and start controlling this. And, you know, they half-hearted did it with this proclamation that he made, which is laughable. But, you know, if you're looking at the cartels and you look at the billions of dollars that they're making each year, and Biden starts to draw his line in the sand, kind of, sort of, no, but, you know, kind of acts outraged. Who do you want in office? You know, it's certainly not President Trump. The cartels want Biden in office, Harris in office, right, to continue these policies that they have. And I will tell you, the cartels are absolutely in control of the border under the Biden-Harris administration. And what they will do, and anybody that says walls don't work are either ignorant or a fool, because walls work. I've worked down there, and I can tell you walls work. Are they 100% effective? Absolutely not. They are not. There's no silver bullet out there. There's nothing that will stop everything. But what it does prevent is these groups of 300 that walk across all at once and say, here we are on your soil, political asylum. So these groups, the cartels hold these groups. They're in control of the border. Make no mistake about it. They're coming across, these aliens are coming across with wristbands, with barcodes, so they can be tracked by the cartels when they get to their destinations. It's highly sophisticated. So they'll walk a group of 300 across the border where there is no fence, and we're here. What law enforcement agency in the United States, I would probably argue in the world, is capable of handling 300 arrests now? There aren't any. It is such a rare occurrence. And so now the Border Patrol has to pull in all of their assets, all their patrol assets. These individuals have to be controlled. We have to make sure that children and women are protected from the predators in the group. They have to be searched for weapons. They have to be provided food and water. We have to have EMTs do medical intakes. We have to take their biographical information. Then we can start to transport them after all of that is completed with 300 people. That is a time-consuming process. And if you have a sedan with 3 seats, you transport 3. If you have a 14-passenger prisoner van, you transport 14. Transporting 300 back to the station is going to take time and manpower. In the meantime, the border is wide open. The cartels then can bring whatever they choose in because the Border Patrol is distracted with this group of 300. All of their assets are tied up with that. And the cartel now is bringing the fentanyl over. They're dancing it across. They're laughing as they're bringing it across. Their gang members are coming across. The really bad people that they don't want us to catch are coming across. But when you have a fence there, you can't walk 300 people across at once. You can get 1, 2, 10 over the fence, and that gives us a time to respond, to use pepper ball launching systems, to use minimal force to drive them back across the border. Then we own the border. We control our border. We protect our national sovereignty. That isn't happening today on our border. It hasn't happened since January of 21. And the cartels are in control of our border and dictate our sovereignty.
Right. Okay. So the cartels are in charge of the border. And as far as I'm concerned, they are running Biden and Harris. I don't know if it's directly or through some other mechanism. I don't know if you know anything about the mechanics of how this works. Do you?
No. I have my suspicions, but
Right.
as I do have my suspicions of, Pennsylvania, that's mind-boggling to me as a law enforcement officer how that ever occurred. But, knowing and proving are two different things.
Oh, yeah. Yes, exactly. We're not going to, we probably don't have time to get into the,
Right.
the assassination attempt, but yes, common sense, how could that have happened? When they knew ahead of time and so on and so forth, right? It's common sense. We've got border laws. Trump was enforcing them, and then Biden comes in and he just pulls all of the enforcements that Trump had off and lets them in. What does that tell anybody with common sense? And then Harris is supposed to be in charge of the border, whether you call her a border czar or not. That's what she was assigned. It was right on national television, and she did nothing. Didn't even go there, except for someplace very far away from the actual border and where all the activity is.
Yeah, she went to El Paso sector headquarters.
Right.
She never made it down to the border. I mean, that's the green zone for sure. And it's appalling.
And I can't even imagine why not. If not for just for show, why not just go there, even if you didn't care? Just go there, just to say you did it.
They were
She didn't
denying
even
there
do
was.
that.
They were still in the denial, and I don't mean the river. They were in denial that there was a crisis on the border. How long do you remember? There's no crisis on the border. The Border Patrol screaming "broken arrow" when they were saying that we're making it all up. I still get angry and shake when I talk about the horse patrol and the whipping.
Oh, the whipping.
And and here we have Kamala Harris talking about the racist Border Patrol agents and the whipping of the migrants. And, let's not talk about the one horse that had its eyeball ruptured from the poor innocent migrant that slapped the horse in the eye with a shoe and ruptured the horse's eyeball. And that our agents use split reins because in the territory we operate in, it's very rugged. You can't even take an ATV into some of these areas. So horseback is the only way to get into these areas, and very thick brush. And so they use split reins. If anybody rides a horse, I don't, but I understand. They don't use the reins that are connected. They use split reins because if the rein gets hooked on some of the brush, the rider can let go of the rein and then just simply pick it up as it passes through the brush. And so as people come up to the horse, if you get control of the bit in the horse, the rein at the mouth, you control that horse. You own it, not the rider. Mm-hmm. And you can make that horse rear up and kill the rider. And so that's a very serious situation. And so we had all these individuals coming up to the horse. The riders are trained to take that rein and twirl it, not as a whip, but to keep the individual away from the horse mouth to get control of the bit, and it turns the horse's head away from the perpetrator, the suspect trying to get hold of the rein. And so that's what those guys were doing. They were doing exactly what they were trained to do in their horse patrol training, 100%. And even the photographer that videotaped the incident admitted there was no whipping going on. That was a lie. But yet we had Mayorkas, we had Biden and Harris talking about the racist Border Patrol agents, and they were going to, face justice. And, the ink on the paperwork, the reports wasn't even dry. And these guys were already convicted. They pulled their guns. They put them on the desk duty. I mean, these guys' reputation, I've been there. I know what it's like. And, to this date, there's never been an exoneration of those men for what happened. They're back on the job, but just absolutely disgusting. And to further my point, the men and women of the Border Patrol, the majority of agents are Hispanics. We are a very diverse agency. And, as a white male, I'm a minority in the Border Patrol. And people may find that hard to believe, but it's a fact. And when people start talking, border enforcement and border laws are racist, I categorically deny that, because the laws are blind. And in my 36 years career, I arrested people from hundreds of nations. And if you can tell me what an illegal alien looks like, I'd appreciate it, because it's like telling me what a terrorist looks like. I've arrested people from Great Britain, from Canada, from Mexico, from Scotland, from Ireland, from countries in Africa. You know what an illegal alien looks like? It looks like a cross-section of the world. And so when you sit there, if you're telling me that Border Patrol agents are racist and immigration laws are racist, no, the racism lies in your head, because you think that illegal aliens are Hispanics. That's not true. Illegal aliens are from all over the world, every walk of life, every color, race, and creed.
Right. So who's the racist?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously. And the guys from that side of things that are for fascism, they call everybody a racist who doesn't go along with what they want to do. They use emotion to handle everybody, and when they get into this, when they're talking about racial relations and things like that, who's the racist? Nobody brought up racist till they did. Nobody brought up a race till they did. So they made it racial. It was never racial before they started spouting the racial stuff. But that's the game they play. And to me, not enough people are seeing through it. To me, it looks like half the country isn't really onto this. But I think people are waking up more and more, don't you?
Yeah, and I do. I think people are waking up, and when I give these talks, and I go to groups, and at the beginning of my talk, I tell them, I say, if you're coming here and you think you're going to leave feeling good, that's not the case. My mission at the end of my presentation is, you should be really pissed off, and you should be really upset if I've done my job, because I think anybody that has any level of common sense can see through this and understand what a travesty this is, and some might even call it treasonous.
Call us treasonous?
No, call what's occurring on the border today treasonous.
It is.
And
it is.
I believe.
It's absolutely treasonous. And our director of Homeland Security sat up there right in front of Congress and lied to us. As far as I'm concerned, he's in treason.
It's like I said, when we looked at those aliens under bridge overpasses in Del Rio, 20, 30,000 of them under, where were all the Democrats crying about this? These people are living Border Patrol agents are compassionate people. We come from every walk of life, from all over the world. I've worked with people from Poland that were naturalized U.S. citizens, all kinds of Mexican naturalized U.S. citizens that are in the Border Patrol. We are here to stop the bad guys, but it's not without compassion for those who are looking for a better way of life. And, nothing makes us more sick to see women, mothers and babies stuffed in under bridge overpasses in 100-degree stifling heat.
Right.
to
Exactly.
facilitate this. And these policies encourage, induce, act as a beacon to the world to come, come and you'll get in. Risk your life crossing the border, risk your life with these cartels, risk your children's safety and, from sexual abuse and robbery. And, it just gets me so mad. And we can stop it. We can stop it tomorrow. But there just isn't the energy there. There isn't the desire. I think the desire to get these people into the country are greater. And I will tell you this. Border Patrol agents on the northern border were being detailed to the southern border to process these thousands upon thousands, the endless, stream coming in. And, Border Patrol agents sign up to protect this country.
Right.
It's
Right.
a very unique law enforcement job out in very unforgiving terrain, and it takes a special breed of person to do that job. And when you take these people and sit them down at a computer and say, process, don't ask 40 questions, ask 5 questions, ask their name, date of birth, place of birth, mother and father, and kick them out the door, get them out as quick as you can, release them into the country. That goes against the oath that these men and women took to protect this country, and they know it's wrong. And so, you have a morale decline. And like I said, you'd walk into a Border Patrol station, 10 years ago, and the guys would be talking about the biggest dope seizure they just got, the murderer, the rapist that they just arrested, the best case they had. And now you walk in and it's 1 year, 3 months, and 5 hours before I can get the hell out of here. Talking about their retirement when they're eligible for retirement. For me, as a guy that spent 36 years and dedicated my life to this agency, that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking to see the men and women of the agency waiting to get out. And that's sad. It's sad. And
It's very sad.
it makes me angry. It really makes me very angry. And so these agents are traveling across country, leaving their wives, their children, their husbands, be it a female, male agent, and traveling down to these godforsaken portions of remote areas to process aliens. Some of them had to, because of all the NGOs that are sponsoring or putting all the aliens up in these hotels, agents had to stay 2 hours away and commute 2 hours to process and release these individuals. Well, then the agencies saw that this was causing a lot of personal problems in their lives, going down once every other month, 30 days at a time, staying in horrific locations, doing a job with zero satisfaction. It was causing extreme problems. So they started allowing agents to virtually process, to where they could be at a computer on the northern border. But they would never see, these agents that were processing the aliens to be released would never see the alien. Somebody down south would take their name, their date of birth, the information, email it to an agent in the northern border. They would input the information, save it in the system. An agent down south would process or print out the form, serve them on the alien, and out the door they'd go. Never even talked to by an agent that was processing them. What kind of vetting is that, right? And so then these agents, not having job satisfaction, not appreciating what they're doing, weren't working as fast as the government thought they should be, as Mayorkas and team would thought they. And so they just basically blackmailed them. Either you will process X amount of aliens per day, or else we are going to send you back south and you will process in person. So, of course, the agents are going to process faster because they don't want to be away from their wives or children, missing birthdays, anniversaries, first days in school, graduations, all of the things in life that they were missing. And so they're absolutely blackmailed into work faster and keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, and let more in. Help
And
more
let more
get in. Right?
Processing faster isn't getting them out. Processing faster is getting more in every day.
And they're being blackmailed into doing it, or their life is going to be made rough for them.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, put yourself in that agent's shoes. Of course, you're going to do what they want because, who wants to miss their? I've been in that boat. I was under President Clinton. We were detailed a lot to the southern border. It's laughable today. President Clinton, by today's standards, would be a right-wing extremist because he was about border security, and we were going out and we were arresting and we were deporting and we were spiking vehicles, and so I said, I was going down every other month to the Mexican border under President Clinton, but I said, at least the job was, thrilling, exciting, and was fun. It was what we signed up to do. Today these agents are going and doing everything that, against the oath that they took, and it's demoralizing.
Absolutely. And I know I kind of get the feeling there. I was in the Air Force during Vietnam. So, and that was a war we did not believe in.
Right.
And yet we had to do things to help that war, right? So
Correct.
it's kind of the same thing. I could totally get the mindset you're talking about there. And morale was very low during that
But we
period.
follow orders at the end of the day.
Yes, we do. But that doesn't mean we like it, and it doesn't mean it sure doesn't make us want to stay in it and make a career of it.
I had people, one of my lecturers that started to get a little upset with the Border Patrol agents. Why aren't they coming forward? Why aren't they speaking out? And why aren't they refusing these orders? And valid questions, good questions, but I will tell you this. First off, having been a whistleblower, the path of a whistleblower is not easy. It is many sleepless nights. Am I going to be able to provide for my family? Are my two daughters and my son going to have a roof over their head, in 2 months? Am I going to prison? It's not an easy path. And then if you refuse a order, you better be damn sure it's unlawful, because and they're veiling what they're doing here with skirting around the edges of the law. So to disobey those orders, you're probably going to lose your job, and it's probably going to be upheld because there is some level of legality to what they're doing. Is it moral? Is it, in the best interest of the United States? No way. But to disobey those orders, I wouldn't recommend any Border Patrol agent disobey those orders, because they will be fired and it will probably stand up. And to be a whistleblower, that's a very personal decision that one has to come to, but it is not an easy task. Being a whistleblower in the federal government is very difficult, and I only survived because I had two very senior, strong senators came to my aid. Had they not stepped up, I may have well went to prison.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Absolutely, and I know.
So not just to jump in here.
Sure.
When we start talking about lawfare and the persecution of President Trump through these prosecutions, I get it. I lived it. I was a patriot. I did what I believed was right for my country, and I was looking at prison. Don't think for a second these people aren't capable of doing that. I know they are.
So, and these guys with families and everything, I mean, they've got to make a decision there. Am I going to, and that's not an easy one, to risk their whole family over this stuff? And then how do they feel when they make the decision, I'm just going to have to do what I'm told because I can't afford to lose this job and I can't let my family go down the drain. But now, once they make the decision, how do they feel working there and just doing what they're told? You know what I mean? It's like, that does not make you feel like a man. I'll just put it that way.
And I mean, majority of our people are married. They have spouses. They have children. We have mortgages. And there's no billionaires in the Border Patrol. There's no multi-millionaires in the Border Patrol. No. We need our check every 2 weeks, and just like every American. And, so what do? Can you have to provide. You have to provide, as men, moms, we have to provide for our children. And, that's my first duty, provide for my wife and kids, keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. And, so yeah, maybe you shut up and just do what you got to be told. And, one of my senior agents at the time before I retired, he came to my job, and we sat down and we were talking, and he was pretty miserable, and it was heartbreaking. He said, he goes, boss, he said, I was getting ready for work the other day, And he said, putting on my uniform, standing in front of the mirror, making sure your military, the gig line is all straight, everything is squared away, I'm looking sharp. And he goes, I lowered my head, and he goes, Chris, he goes, you belong to the largest smuggling organization in the world, the United States Border Patrol.
Oh, right.
And I mean, and he wasn't saying it as a joke. He was saying it as he was crushed.
No, it's. I can just imagine he was facing the truth there.
Yep.
And it sure didn't feel good. But what?
No.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And this is probably happening. This is happening all the way up the organization, all the way up to congressmen and senators. Why are they letting things slide? Right? They've got things held over their heads all over the place. But do you have some statistics you can show us as to how things were while Trump was in as compared to now? Great, Mark. We've got the slides up there. So why don't you go ahead and show us what's going on there?
Sure. We talked already a little bit about my background, my history, working from the Border Patrol from '84 to 2022. Some of the areas I've worked at. I've worked in every state along the Mexican border. Some of my assignments, we've alreat covered these. Accomplishments, some of my testimony. I've appeared on Nat Geo, Drugs Inc., several episodes of that, Netflix Dope, a lot of Dateline NBC.
You're getting the word out. That's good.
So, border apprehensions. So these are the numbers we're looking at from 2016 forward.
Okay. These are border apprehensions. Okay.
Yep. So 2023, last fiscal year, from October 1 of 22 to September 30th of 23, we're at 2 million that we apprehended, that we caught, and vast majority of them were released into the country. When you go back to 2016, 2017, you're looking at less than 1 million.
Right.
And so you go to in the neighborhood of 300 to 400,000 per year up until 2021. And of course, we know what happened January 20th of 2021, and you see that number spike over 1,100,000 in 1 year.
Exactly. Now, I mean, that's just pure fact right there.
Those are numbers you can't argue with.
Right.
And you hear the term a lot of times. People talk about gotaways, and what are the gotaways? Well, gotaways are in the Border Patrol. You'd start, let's say you were working afternoon shift, and so you would go out to your area, your assigned area, and we'd do it what we call cleaned up. So we had tire drags you drag along our drag roads where it obliterates the foot sign. But first thing you would do is go down to the border itself, and you would count the amount of foot prints in the sand that crossed into the border. Okay? So say you have 300 entries. Well, if the afternoon shift picked up 150, we know we got 150 gotaways. Pretty simple math.
Right.
Well, nobody's going down, nobody's counting gotaways, nobody's cleaning up the areas, there's no time for that. We don't know what the gotaways are because nobody's counting them. So close your eyes and throw the dart at the dartboard. That's our best guess. So when they say 10 million illegal aliens have came into this country since 2021, that's laughable. I don't know what the number is. Nobody knows what the number is. 15 million, 20 million, probably in that ballpark, I would say. That's bigger than most states. That should be very disturbing to people. That is changing the makeup of our nation.
Yeah, they just injected 20,000 into Springfield, Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Boom. That a third of their city is. But can you go back to those stats a second?
Sure can.
All right. So these are people. Are these all let back into our country? I don't think they were under before 2021, right?
Correct. The majority in 2016 to 2020, well, the majority in my career up until 2020 through 2020 were returned. And, if they requested a hearing, we would provide them order to show cause and detain them. And either they would post a bond or, go for a bond redetermination. So that the number that was actually detained were minimal.
All right. So all these
most were kicked back to their home country, back to Mexico, or removed to their home country.
right. So it shot up from like an average of 400,000, 500,000 a year up to and those were all mostly turned back. And then
Correct.
2021 it shoots up to over 1 million and then 2 million, and those are allowed mostly to stay in our country.
That's why you have the increase, is because they're being let into the country.
Right.
The border's open, folks. Come on. When
Yeah,
people
so
knew that they stood minimal chance of getting into the country and they were going to be removed, what was the purpose of coming?
right.
Now the
So
word's out that the America's open for business. Come on. So that's why your numbers
exactly.
climb like that.
So these are hardcore stats. Up through 2020 was Trump. 2021 on was Biden, and we can all see the difference. So
January
okay,
20th, 2021, Biden took the oath of office. He was inaugurated into office. So
and
that's
said he was going to reverse the Trump's orders, and he did. I
did.
saw him right on national TV sign it. So,
He did on that day, and this is what you got.
and this is what we got. There we are. Okay, thank you, Mark.
Then some other disturbing numbers of special interest aliens, aliens that we should scratch our head at. Like, why are these people coming into our country? These are people we should be taking a hard look at. Mauritania in Africa, 15,000. Uzbekistan, 13,000. Turkey, 30,000. Iran, 659. I mean, these are disturbing numbers. Numbers like I've never seen.
Yeah, and these
are
are for. Now, tell us why we should be worried about them coming from these countries in particular.
These are countries known for terrorism.
Right.
Special interest countries, special interest aliens. It's not saying they're terrorists, but we need to take a step back and take a special interest in these individuals coming from these countries. We need to take a special interest and take a hard look at them, and we're not.
And we're not. Okay. Got it.
Walls work. They prevent large groups from crossing all at once. It allows the Border Patrol time to respond and control the incident. You get a group that comes in, 1 to 300, the cartels send them in. Agents respond with all available manpower with 300 individuals you have to deal with. Like I said, there is no law enforcement agency that is capable of dealing with 300 arrests now. So the border is left vulnerable. All your assets are sent to deal with the 300. And the fentanyl, criminals, you name it, comes across the border. That's why fentanyl is everywhere. That's why cocaine, heroin are at all-time lows. That's why we're having astronomical fentanyl deaths. The cartels are running the show, folks.
Yes, they are.
So DEA threat assessment finds the Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels are active in every state as of May of 2024. 2023, the remittance to Mexico from the United States, that's like wire transfers, we're looking at $58 billion. Now, the next number, I'm not sure I embrace that, but it's an estimate from DEA. Cartels profit as high as $500 billion a year. I think that might be shooting a little high. But regardless, at the end of the day, they're making billions, like money they've never made before. The cartels have partnered with China, and the precursors for making fentanyl are being brought into Mexico, and they're making the fentanyl for dirt cheap in Mexico. And for those who don't know, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. Heroin, opium comes from the poppy that we make heroin from, and is used as a painkiller. It's a depressant. And so fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, and much, much stronger than, it can be much, much stronger than heroin, and very cheap to manufacture, not as labor intensive as having to score the poppies and get the sap and process it. It's much simpler. So the cartel controls all the smuggling events in the United States. With that comes robbery, rape, murder, death from the travel, and then human traffickings. And
Wow.
I mean, as a human, this stuff bothers me.
Absolutely. It should bother us all.
We have the cartel members who are ruthless criminals, but then we have the aliens that are coming here looking for a better life, and these individuals are becoming victims of the cartels and of our government that it's allowing it to occur. Fentanyl's
Yeah, right.
very
If we
potent.
wouldn't allow this, everybody who wanted to come in just for a better life would come in correctly, and they wouldn't be getting in danger.
Exactly, 100%. Use the front door. Come in through a port of entry. Make your application for asylum there. And if it's a legitimate claim, you're going to get it. But
Right.
coming across the border is dangerous, and it threatens our national sovereignty, our national security.
That's
So
terrible.
fentanyl can be in a powder, can be in a pill form. Yeah. So, but it's extremely potent, extremely deadly. And, this is not GlaxoSmithKline making this. This is, individuals working in makeshift labs, sheds, mixing this stuff. So what you get today may be wildly different than what you had yesterday. It may not, the potency will vary wildly. Has it been stepped on, cut, to increase the profit? Lord only knows. I mean, a chemist is the only one that can tell you what the potency of it is.
It's not exactly FDA approved, is it?
No. So the faces of fentanyl.
And even if it was, I wouldn't trust it, by the way.
So fentanyl obviously has been spinning up, and the leading cause of death for 18 to 45, and that lower age of 18 is coming down. We're seeing even younger people dying from overdoses of fentanyl. And so you look at this, 2019, 36,000 deaths from fentanyl under President Trump. 2023, 112,000 fentanyl deaths.
All right, that's the difference between 2019 and 2023. Wow.
And that averages currently over 306 deaths a day in the United States from fentanyl overdoses. And these are young folks, people.
That's terrible.
Where's the outcry? Where is the screaming over losing 306 young people every day, day after day?
Just think of the families and the parents, what they're going through over this. I mean, it's not just one kid. For every kid, there's a bunch of loved ones who
Yes.
are miserable.
Yes, the pain is unbelievable, and these aren't anticipated, expected. It's not somebody battling an illness. These are sometimes a kid trying it for the first time.
Right. And this is all being allowed by Biden and the woman who wants to be your next president. Just to remind everybody.
And they'll cite stats of the record seizures that Border Patrol, CBP are making at the border of fentanyl, and that's a stat I'm not proud of. That's a stat that disturbs me because our guys aren't out there patrolling like they should be. This is what they're stumbling upon. This is what they're falling into because they're not out there patrolling like they should, not proactive patrols. So making record seizures tells you just by accident almost, tells you that the massive amounts of narcotics, controlled substances that are coming into this country when you're making record seizures by happenstance. So we have a known or suspected terrorist Again, disturbing numbers.
Yeah, they're letting a lot of known terrorists into the country. They know they're terrorists. They're already identified as such, correct?
Correct. Or highly suspected of being terrorists. And you see here 2023, 736. Now, the interesting thing is 487 of those are at the northern border with Canada. So it's not just a Mexico problem, but let me be very clear on this. With Joe Biden's numbers, they don't count the northern border apprehensions, where we have Swanton sector that are getting thousands every month. We have Dry Tortuga down in Florida, where the Haitians are coming out. We don't count coastal apprehensions, or let's say Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't count those. So those numbers aren't what are published or considered in his border proclamation of locking down the border. So it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game.
Right, right. So the stats we're hearing are not all being entered. Correct?
When they're talking, well, the stats that I'm providing are all the stats of the encounters. But when he's talking about his the border lockdown, the policies that he has in place to control the entries, well, they don't count for that purpose of enacting the protocols set forth in that executive order. He's not counting the northern border apprehensions. He's not counting apprehensions at the ports of entry. He's not counting coastal apprehensions. And so the cartels are just adjusting.
I'm glad you're putting this out there.
And again,
because we're not going to get it from mainstream media.
And now I want to highlight something. These are the people we're putting our hands on. These are the known. These are the ones we are encountering, we're touching. 736 known last fiscal year. We touch those. What's coming across that we don't know? The gotaways. That's what the cartels don't want us to catch. We're getting what the cartel is allowing us to catch. So, or we're tied up with that 300 that walked across the Rio Grande and are sitting there waiting for us to come, and every asset is dealing with them. Then the real bad guys are coming in around us, the gotaways.
Wow, that's disgusting.
They're not sending the family groups around us. The family groups are what they're tying us up with. The real bad people are coming around us.
And they're coming into all of our cities, all over the country.
Everywhere. Now, this next portion is what keeps me up at night. And it's bothersome. In my career, the 36 years, we average between 300 and 400 Chinese citizens making entry into the United States each year. So you start to look at these numbers, and they're coming in through a place called the Chimneys up in Hucumba, California. I've actually worked that area. And so let's look at these numbers here. 2021, 450, 1,900, 2023, 24,000. 24,000. We averaged 400 a year. 300 to 400
under Trump.
A year.
And not just under Trump, but under anybody before.
Correct. Yeah. Because the PRC doesn't let people just walk out of their country. You don't just leave China without some blessing. I'm sure there's some level of smuggling that goes on, but when you're having 24,000 citizens walk out of the country, there's some blessing going on there.
They're coming for a reason.
You're sitting down?
Yeah, I better be.
2024. We're not at the end of the fiscal year, my friend. This is at the end of July. 67,000 Chinese citizen. Of that 67,000, 56,627 are single adults.
Yeah, I wonder what they're up to. And what age group? 18 to 35?
18 to 35, military, and most are in groups of 5 to 15. Why would they be coming in small groups of adult men in groups? Well, those are military units.
I would love to. I mean, we can only ascertain, but I would love to get the proof of some evidence as to what they're really doing here. I'm afraid by
Well,
the time we do, it'll be too late.
they're coming and talking to friends at CBP working airports in Florida, and they're seeing Chinese males coming in, and they're carrying very large telephoto lenses, very
That's
large.
right.
And
I heard that.
we're going to Disney. Why do you have that telephoto lens? Because we're going to go to Disney and photograph Mickey Mouse.
Right.
No, this is why they're coming. The Chinese owned farmland around our military installations, significant military installations. Yuma Proving Grounds in the lower left corner is where I worked. That is a top secret military facility. Look at all the Chinese property owned around it.
Are all these properties around military installations?
The red is Chinese owned property. And then the bullet points are the military installations.
Now, I know they're up to no good, but what exactly are they? Oh, well, they're spying on them.
They're spying on us. They're coming in with these high-powered telephoto lenses, and they're gathering intelligence on us. We shoot down the spy balloon after it's made its course completely across the United States. That's a brilliant move.
Yeah, there's one of those things where it's got to be intentional. You know, because the only credit I can give this administration is they're not that stupid.
No.
They might be stupid morally, but not logistically, not this way.
My friend, the enemy isn't at our gate. The enemy's in our front yard.
That's right.
NBC recognizes that China is really buying up U.S. farmland. Here's what we found: a significant threat to national security. NBC.
I wonder why they were allowed to say that.
Right?
Yeah.
So we talk about the South American transnational gangs. President Trump's talked quite a bit about this. I've been warning of TDA for over a year now. Tren de Aragua. It's a Venezuelan gang. Comes out of a neighborhood in Venezuela where there is a prison, the Tocoran prison, and they are a gang, and they are a violent gang. They're kind of the new MS-13 on steroids. They're very sophisticated. We have a sheriff here in Oakland County, Michigan, one of the largest sheriff departments in the nation. And Sheriff Bouchard has warned the public of this gang for some time now. Oakland County is an affluent county in Michigan, and we had some very high-end homes targeted. They were surveilled for habits of life, and then they break in and steal everything and then leave the state. They don't stay around. They're very sophisticated, making it difficult for law enforcement. So Sheriff Bouchard has rallied and organized through the large sheriff association in the United States and started some task forces where these agencies can share information across state lines about these gangs. And recently in the past, I would say the past month, I'm hearing a lot about the TDA now. And my friend, they are here, and they are to be reckoned with. They are to be considered. They are not to be taken lightly. And they are involved in everything.
Wow. Some of this is erupting little by little, but I have a feeling we're into for something big sooner or later.
Yes, and you know, President Trump, when he talks about Venezuela's emptied out their prisons and their mental, he's right. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely right. I mean, look at that article. Venezuela's homicide rate's the lowest it's been in 22 years. Because they're all here.
That's right.
It's the same thing Castro did in as I was starting in the Border Patrol with the Mariel boat lift. he emptied out his prisons and his mental institutions and said, you can either stay in my prison or you can get on a boat and go to the United States. And under Jimmy Carter, they came.
I remember that. We thought that was a big joke. I mean, he was making an ass of himself.
I was dealing with Mariel Cubans into the early 90s. They were very brazen criminals. And they didn't fear the police. They didn't fear our prison. Our prison system was like a resort compared to what they did in Cuba. And so now we have Venezuela doing the same thing to us. And God knows what other countries down there are emptying out their prisons and mental institutions and sending them north. President Trump is right. He is spot on this. He is not wrong. It's happening, folks. We're seeing it.
Right in front of our eyes.
We look at the victims of the border crisis. I mean, Laken Riley, tragedy.
Yes.
Just, these little girls that are getting raped, murdered.
Yeah, having their bodies cut up. It's... Ugh.
This man here, asylum seeker, killed a mother and daughter. Shouldn't have been driving. Shouldn't have been in the United States. Shouldn't have been driving. Killed a mother and daughter. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah, this one was a joke because the one guy had the ankle monitoring bracelet on by ICE. And a lot of good it did that 13-year-old girl.
Right. He shouldn't have even been out.
Mm-hmm. The two Venezuelans that raped this poor little girl and killed her and left her in a ditch.
Yeah, I remember that one.
So the migrant protection protocol that President Trump enacted, and it was a Supreme Court case and it was upheld, deals with 8 U.S.C. 1182F of the INA, and it affords the president to stop the migration. And it is constitutional. And that was the stay in Mexico, but the actual terminology for it was MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocols. And so when you stop these illegal border crossings and force the individuals that want to claim asylum to do it the right way, the legal way, the safe way, coming to a port of entry, you reduce sexual assaults, you reduce the robberies, you reduce the regular assaults, you reduce deaths on the border. And why anybody would sign an executive order to stop that is beyond me.
It's criminal.
Six executive actions: stop the construction of the wall, enhance the DACA, revoke the migrant protection protocols, and limitations on migration from known terrorist countries. That's a brilliant move. And place a moratorium on all deportations, including gang members and criminal aliens. That was January 20th. Thank you, President Biden and Kamala Harris. How does this make America safer?
It doesn't, and I ask my audience, who would do something like this other than a criminal? Seriously.
Somebody hell-bent on having power for their party.
Exactly. It's totally criminal and immoral, and anybody who votes for the same administration that is executing this is out of their minds. And Harris is this administration and this machine.
Oh yes, she is.
Absolutely. The only thing she's good at is putting on an act.
Oh, and as she goes to whichever community she goes to, and what accent she takes on that day.
Yeah, and does her chameleon thing.
So the results. Word spread quickly across the world. Any claim of asylum will result in release into the United States. The caravans came. Apprehensions climbed over 12,000 a day. Over 20,000 held a day in Border Patrol custody in under overpasses. I mean, these are real pictures. And at the time, we had Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas saying, There's no crisis. It's made up. It's not true. It isn't happening. And you have the media going right along with it. And to
That's
the point
right.
where it became undeniable. But I mean, look at this. And this is blistering heat. And there are women and children in those groups down there. You go to work every day and you see that as a father, as a mother. Tell me that isn't heartbreaking.
Yeah,
And it's
it must
because we're
be for
not,
these guys.
and it's because we're not controlling our border. They're not allowed to do their job that it causes this human tragedy. But yet, those who were screaming about the kids in cages in air-conditioned buildings with PlayStation, soccer balls, video games, were screaming about kids in cages not to be seen or heard at this. They didn't even want to come down to the border.
Right. Very responsible.
Right? This
Yeah.
is what happened. This is real. I look at the lower left there, the tunnel. You know why you don't hear about any tunnel seizures or locations lately? Because they don't need to build them. They walk it across. They don't have to build tunnels to sneak it in the country.
Wow.
Why on God's earth would you do that when you can walk it across?
Yeah, they're just doing it blatantly right in front of us.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we have this. Babies coming across. Heartbreaking.
Dying.
As a parent, that breaks my heart. And it makes me mad.
We should all be mad about this.
And here's the migrant, the Haitian whipping scenario. Mayorkas new Border Patrol agents did not whip the migrants before repeating false claims on emails. There was no evidence that they whipped them.
Lie after lie.
So here's President Trump's June 4th, 2024 presidential proclamation. A proclamation, I don't know if you know, is very similar to an executive order, but an executive order has to be published, I believe, in the Federal Registry. A proclamation doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So why did they wait? Why did they wait to June 24 to do this? Well, because this is a half-hearted MPP. It's not really an MPP. So let's look at it. Nothing takes place until we have 7 consecutive calendar days of average of 2,500 encounters or more. Okay? So we have to get to 2,500 encounters on the border every day for 7 consecutive days before we're going to do anything.
That means we have to allow in 2,500 a day.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
And the term encounter refers to non-citizens who are physically apprehended by CBP immigration officers within 100 miles of the United States land border during a 14-day period immediately after entry. And the term Southwest land border means entirely the United States land border with Mexico. So it says 7 consecutive days, 2,500 encounters or more, not including encounters described in subsection 4A little 3I of this proclamation. Okay, well, what the heck does that mean? Here we go. Is determined inadmissible at a Southwest land border. Right?
Right. What?
So it's
what
not
good is that?
It's not the ports of it's not the ports of entry. It's not Florida. It's not the northern border. It's those who are crossing the land border. So what happened? OFO, the people that work the bridge, the tunnels into the country, the actual ports of entry, that's where they're all coming at now. And then we're still seeing the 2,200, 2,300 a day. I mean, this is very organized. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And then they're flying them in too, under the Haitian, Cuban, that they temporarily pause, that they're going to restart if they haven't restarted it already, where the one dead person sponsored 1,800 into the country. So they're flying them in on your tax dollar and my tax dollar.
Yeah, that's a whole other way they're coming in, getting flown.
Yeah. So you look at the total enforcement actions between the ports for the ports of entry and the Border Patrol. Fiscal year 17, 500,000, 18, 600,000, 19, 1.1 million. So it's going up, but nothing like when with the Biden-Harris regime. So Russia, we've had over 123,000 Russians enter the United States. And you look at when it spikes.
Where is that? I can't see it.
So this is, oh, I'm sorry. So it goes by year. So it's 2021, 22, the colors. So the light blue line is 21. The light orange is 22. The dark line, black almost, or navy blue, is 23. And then the dark orange line is 24. That dark orange line only goes part of the way because this was as of May of this year.
Wow. So this is right in front of us here.
Mm-hmm. And these are public numbers. So for that period of time, we've had 159,000 Chinese come in. This is under the Biden administration, 21 through 23. Who's patrolling the border? Nobody. The checkpoints are closed. Agents are detailed to transport, babysit, feed, change diapers, hospital duties, process and process faster are what agents are being told. You know, don't go too deep down the rabbit hole. Don't want to find out something that's going to bog us down and slow the process of releasing people into the country. When we had about an average of 40 questions on an arrest, we've streamlined that down to 5. And there's no time for interrogations under this administration. We don't really want to know. You know, and
you're saying you're saying since they're all tied up with this stuff, nobody's actually patrolling the border?
We're getting a little better at it because the numbers have come down on the border. But there were times back in this early summer where nobody was going out on the border. In Tucson sector, they had closed all the checkpoints. They had a period of time that there was not a single agent in Tucson sector even patrolling the border.
Wow.
I was told by agents down there, they had 2 agents assigned to sensor duty, which they go out and replace the batteries and maintain the sensors along the border that, you know, notify us when there is either a vehicle or humans coming across the border. And those agents were ordered in off the line. They didn't even want them out on the line.
This is just chaos.
And I laugh when you see Biden or Harris where they say, well, these people are fully vetted before they're released. How do you vet somebody from Mauritania? How do you vet somebody from Russia? You know, it's not like you pick up the telephone and, hey, Vladimir, does this guy have any arrest record? That doesn't happen. It's like opening up an empty file cabinet, looking in there and saying, yep, there's nothing here. He's good to go.
Well, that's why she can't be. That's why she can't be interviewed.
Yeah, we're not checking. Yeah. There's no records to check. So to say they're fully vetted, okay, I guess they're fully vetted, but we don't have any records to check. So that's a falsehood.
Right. And if somebody asks her, so how do you vet somebody like this? She won't have an answer. She cannot do an interview and take a risk at being asked questions like that.
And the answer to the question is nobody's vetting them. There's no way to vet them.
Right. It's and the like only, she can either, she wouldn't know what to say, but she could either lie or...
And what kind of information are you getting from these individuals? First off, they're dropping all their travel documents. They don't have, it's not like they have their Chinese passport on them. They're dropping them along the route. And so, you know, you ask them what their name is, what their date of birth, where they were born, what their mother and father's name are. Those are the 5 questions. And you're writing down whatever they give you. You know, they're picking whatever name they want to pick out of the sky and giving it to you.
Well, there's some good vetting.
Right. And where we used to at least ask 40 questions and, you know, do a little bit of an interrogation, trying to trip people up, see if they're lying to you. Well, we don't want to find that out. We just want to push them down the road, out the door and down the road. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because I've got to get so many done today so I can keep my job or not get transferred.
We had a situation where a highly an agent with a high level of integrity came to their attention that there was a family group of 5 that were wanted by the FBI. That I'm not sure if the children were involved, but mom and dad, they are terrorists. And 2 FBI agents, FBI agents were dispatched to go to the Border Patrol station on the border from a distance away in Texas to pick them up. And a high-ranking Border Patrol agent ordered them to be released. And this agent said, you know, these are terrorists, we can't release them. FBI is coming. And she was told that we are not the FBI's detention officers. And this agent said over their dead body would they be released, that there was no way they were releasing them. And that one died a quiet death, and the agent won out, and we ended up turning over the terrorists. But that's even the managers are under pressure to release terrorists, known terrorists, into the country. I mean, good God, how do these people sleep with themselves at night?
That's something I don't know. They've got to be insane.
And then agents detailed away from home for months to process, and then we start the virtual process, and then it's process or face details. You're literally blackmailed into process faster, or we're going to send you back south, and you're going to be away from your wife and your children. And you're going to miss the birthdays and first days of school and first steps and first crawl and all the things we cherish in life. And these virtual processing, yeah, right? And the virtual processing agents never see or talk to an alien before released into the United States. Never see them. Some good vetting going on there, baby.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And then, to your point, check what records?
Right. There are none to check. Right. A truer statement has not been said.
Very true.
So that's the end of the slides.
That's the end of the slides, yep.
Okay, well, thank you for that. That showed us some real statistics. And that's something for our audience to really take a look at. And so now that we've gone through all the problems here, what do you think the solution is to all this?
What we were doing.
There you go.
It worked. It worked. I mean, you know, there's people like myself and others that are think tanking and coming up with some ideas. But, you know, at the end of the day, everybody's, you know, I'm hearing things, well, we need to reinstitute this policy. We need to reinstitute that policy, you know, our old pursuit policy, our old use of force policy, the detention policy. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We just need, and the answer is, again, I'm not taking a political side here, but to me, the answer is glaringly clear. I saw somebody had posted that a vote for the president isn't a Valentine. It's not a marriage proposal. It is a move in a chess game, which we believe is the best for our nation. You know, do I agree with everything that you know, President Clinton did or President Reagan? No, of course not. Did I agree with everything President Trump did in his first term? Of course not. But I like what he does, and I like what he stands for, and I believe the man is doing it because he loves this nation and for no other reason. And that gets my vote. I tell you, that gets my vote because it is what's best for this country. And, you know, we're seeing the economic catastrophe that's going on in this country, and Bidenomics, it's working. Give me a break. I mean, all you got to do to know that it's not working is go try to refinance your house. Go try to buy a gallon of milk for your babies. You know it's not working. And then look at this border, folks. This is the life that I live. And don't let anybody that has a, you know, master's degree, in anthropology or whatever tell you they're a border expert. The border experts are the men and women that have that badge, wear the body armor, and go and patrol that border. And they know it's an absolute catastrophe down there. It is broken arrow. It is a border in crisis. Our nation is at risk. Like I said, the enemy is not at our gate. The enemy is here amongst us. And we need to shut this border down and get control of this nation tomorrow. It can't happen fast enough. And President Trump come in, he will sign executive orders. I haven't talked to the man personally, but he will sign executive orders. I've heard him speak and institute this migrant protection protocols along with other things, reinstitute the policies and practices that were in place that worked. And then we have to strike the fear of the government into these aliens that are here and running rampant and let them know we are coming for them. And we are going to come for them with all due force that's necessary to make the arrest and remove them from this country if they don't have a right to be here. By God, the Supreme Court allows us to use reasonable force to effect the arrest and to enforce the laws in this nation. And these videos of watching police officers beg and plead with people to do something, those days have to stop. We have to get law and order back to this country. Yes, it has to be within the bounds of the law. It has to be humane. But by God, we have to get aggressive and we have to get real with our law enforcement and protecting this nation and restoring law and order to this country. And it's going to take a backbone and a stomach for it. And President Trump has that.
Absolutely. And the short story is, go back to what you said. Go back to what worked. And it didn't work under this administration. And it did work under the Trump administration. So if you want it to work, I say, I'll just come out and say it point blank. Vote for Trump. Don't vote for the people that are in this administration. And that would be Kamala Harris. And of course, you're not going to vote for Joe Biden. But do not vote for somebody who's going to carry this on. And I think that's a good start. Okay? Yep. So anything else, Mark, before we go?
No, just to echo what your thoughts are. It's not even a question for me. I mean, I see what's going on that border, and I see the lies that are being perpetrated on the American public, and what worked. There is not even a question.
No, not at all. Not a question for anybody with any brains. So I thank you very much for coming on and sharing this. And I will be posting some things in my post monologue here. And but again, Mark, thank you very much. And you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me and letting me get the word out. My pleasure, my honor. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. And please remember to like or subscribe, or both, depending on what platform you're viewing or listening on. I hope you've come out of this interview a little more informed. And remember, it's all intentional. There are vested interests behind the madness, but that's a subject for another show. But for now, if you really care about the border, detest tyranny, a bad economy, and censorship, please make sure you support Donald J. Trump and the MAGA movement, and vote accordingly. If you have any questions, would like to see any of Mark's graphs, or want to communicate for any reason, my contact info is on my website at takecontrolofyourliberty.com. And until next time, remember to take control of your liberty, because you don't want anyone else doing that but you.